Dustin?
I would say be inspired, but try to create your own voice. I think that obviously it's a world with tons of musicians and composers, and I feel that if you can find your own voice in it, it'll help you have a musical compass, especially when you're dealing with directors giving you temp scores and you have to somehow filter it and make it yours.
For directors, yeah, I kind of second the whole don't worry about the terminology, just be honest and trust the person you're working with.
Right, Bryan?
Yeah, sorry for not speaking too much too. I mean, there's like a florid motet of wonderful speakers here, so I'm eager to listen to them as well.
Well, take your time now.
Yeah, so now I'm gonna talk. While everyone's talking about inspiration, my experience with younger composers, I have a small ad company, so I work with a lot of composers, is that most people are, that at least I work with are really talented and have really great ideas. So it's not so much about that, at least the advice that I would give. It would be more to stay financially solvent. Film is, for the most part, especially in the beginning, a negative money-making proposition. It is serious work. There's going to be revisions. Sometimes it takes 2 months. Sometimes you're lucky and it only takes 3 weeks and you get a paycheck. But oftentimes you don't. Or oftentimes you're going to spend all that money Craigslist binging, eBay binging, whatever to make it possible. So I would say, have something that's going to make you money. Therefore, you feel the freedom to be able to experiment and to do those things that you want to do artistically, because they're there. And you don't want to compromise those artistic decisions because you're going to really need to make a paycheck in like the next week.
That is a really good point. Silent but deadly over there. Thank you. Michael?
There's one thing I realize we kind of haven't talked about, which is that producers are involved in your movie, usually and luckily, and sometimes negatively, and sometimes since music is usually hustled in at the last minute often, and it's wedded to your movie at the last minute. It's a very personal choice, and it's one choice that most people are very clear-headed about, actually, and they don't necessarily agree with your tastes in music. So my advice would be to stick to your own instincts, stick to your guns, recognize that just because people are imperious or confident about what they think is right for the film, if it's not right for you, don't stand for it. And I also think the archaeological advice is really great, too, for everyone, that you can never know enough.
I think having a lot of trust with the composer is very key, and to echo other people's talking about, you want to be able to hang out with them. That's huge. And also for directors, I think it's important to strip all the music out. If you're temping, take it all out and study the scenes, scene by scene. What does it really mean? And be experimental with your composer.
Todd?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, when you're deciding to work with a composer, I guess this is for both the composers and the filmmakers, you're kind of standing on the deck of a ship about to get into a little tiny submarine that's going to go to the bottom of the ocean. And so you're both deciding on a working relationship on the deck of a ship, but you're also deciding on who you're going to be at the bottom of the ocean with and stuck. And that's important, is in terms of how you maintain your relationship, because no matter what, making a film involves deep psychological distress for the filmmaker, and you have to be the kind of personality that they can be in that distress with, and that's part of the job.
Big part of the job. Thanks.
I concur
Keegan?
on all the artistic stuff for sure. So just to speak about the professional side of it, I feel like the best professional advice I've gotten is that it's a really giant waste of time to spend any time comparing your career to other people's careers or whatever it is. It's just people.
Nobody does that.
Yeah. I feel like some people, they have overnight success, and some people it takes them 20 years of doing it, and then it all happens, and it's just a big energy sucker. So if I had advice to give, it would be to do that, and then also just to educate yourself about contracts and what you're doing in terms of what you're signing with these producers. A lot of times, they show up and they go, hey, we got into this film festival, here's a contract, we're going to own everything, there's this crazy holdback period and all this stuff, and it's a really exciting time in film and how things are getting financed and where they're going. And I always encourage every composer that I meet to really fight for ownership of their masters and to ask people if they have a plan to exploit these things that they're trying to own. And, they want soundtrack rights. Well, are you ever going to release a soundtrack? And P.S., nobody buys music anyway, so we're all doomed. So it's like, just, be smart about that, because it's just as much as the creative archaeology is important, it's a cop-out also to say that you don't want to think about the business side of it, because in terms of being financially solvent, a lot of the ways that I do that is by holding on to the rights of things and 2 years later being able to repurpose that for an industrial video, and that pays so that I can do something that's totally artistically.
That works in the indie world anyway. When you get to Hollywood, it's a little different, but good point. Heather?
I think it's really important to be open and flexible when you're looking at a project. I think we're in this really cool position where we are members of a very artful service industry. We're trying to best serve the picture, best serve the director, best serve the story. And if you can really be objective about your creative art and be able to know what really best serves it, it's the most important thing.
Right. Good point. You guys are so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this and sharing all that with us. And thank you all for coming.